Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this one, I figured while we're having a little bit of downtime for some of us and can't get out to the track, I'd do kind of like a 6-month review on my TLR 22 5.0 and show you what I've done to it so far. If you guys have been short time or long time followers of the channel, you know that I race a lot of outdoor dirt stuff, and I travel a little bit to do some indoor dirt racing up in like Beach RC area and a couple other tracks. So a lot of my experience with this car has been primarily with the outdoor dirt racing scene and a little bit of indoor dirt racing and a little bit of carpet racing. So gotten a nice little taste of all the different tracks that are out there, and I've learned a lot about the car. And I'm comfortable with it in some areas, and other areas I'm still learning. So I figured before we jump into kind of the things that I've learned, let's get a good starting point so you guys can see what I have in the car, some upgrade parts and stuff like that. And then we'll dive into some of the setup stuff so that you guys can see what I've been doing. Let's go ahead and pop the body off here. Oh, and in case you're curious, this is the Proline Axis body. Really nice. I think that this body is a little bit more responsive than the kit body. It's got some sharper lines to it, a little bit more aggressive forward cab design. Suits my driving style. I like a car that has a little bit more responsiveness, so if that's what you're looking for, this is a nice option to go with. If you like the car to be a little bit more neutral, not responding as much, easier to drive in some respects, then I would stick with the kit body. So let's go ahead and start with the electronics that we have in the car, and then we'll move on to some of the hop-ups and option parts that we have. Starting at the heart and soul of our vehicle, we have the Hobbywing XR10 G2, the Passion Edition. It's got the nice little red line around there. Hoping to get the Gold Edition, the limited run one that they have, real soon. I know it got tied up with our whole little situation right now, but hopefully that will be in there very soon. Supplying power to that speed controller is going to be a Trinity white carbon battery most of the time. Recently, I've been kind of playing around with this guy here, the RevTech. It's kind of like I think they call this the graphene LCG battery. It's a little bit lighter and it has a little bit lower profile. I've been running that battery at some indoor dirt tracks. It may be in my head, but over the last couple track days that I've had and I've run it, it seems that I can get the car to get to the point of some roll and really aggressive lean angle, but not flip as easy. I think that the white carbons, they do provide a little bit more punch, a little bit more power, but they are a little bit taller, a little bit heavier, and I can kind of feel that weight difference. So it's like a never-ending toss-up between, do I want the car to have a slightly better handling characteristic, or do I want it to have a little bit more punchiness? Some of you may not agree or feel the difference, but that's kind of the difference that I personally have felt as of late. Thought I would share it with you guys in case you're thinking about trying out a different battery. Moving back to the motor, we obviously have the Trinity X Factor 17.5 motor. Been running it in the spec class, no mod racing for me as of yet, and these things are great. I really can't say enough about them. They have tons of punch, tons of top end, and very minimal fade. In a normal 5 to 6 minute run, phenomenal from start to finish. In some of the longer 10-minute mains, I would argue that it's not even the motor that would hit fade because the temps don't really get that high. It's just the drop off in voltage of the battery that I would experience any sort of fade. So really, really, really good motors. I can't speak to them enough. You guys know what to do. Links down in the description if you're looking for one of those motors. Keeping the motor cool, we do have a Trinity aluminum case fan on there as well. Something that was a nice change going from the AE car to this TLR car is that they do have the fan mount integrated into the side rail, so you don't have to kind of like jerry rig it with like servo tape or anything like that. Just one little screw, mount it up in there, and that thing ain't going nowhere. As for the steering servo, I'm using the BK servo, the BLS SSHS. Yeah, I think I got that right. Black aluminum casing, looks real nice, matches the black and silver aluminum finish of the factory option parts from TLR, and it performs phenomenally. I've been using them now for almost a couple years, and they're shorty servos and they work great in all of my 10 scale cars. No Ryan Harris car would be complete without a white MyLapse transponder. If you guys have seen them before in my cars, they were a limited run transponder that MyLapse made back in 2011 for the tsunami relief in Japan. I think that they had some funds go over there to contribute to the families that lost houses and whatnot, but they were not made long after that, and so there are not very many in circulation today. But I was lucky enough that I've sourced 3 of them, I think, so that I can kind of have my whole 10 scale fleet with the super fast white transponders. And then as far as my radio goes, I am using the Sanwa M17. That's why you see the RX491 receiver in there. Been using that now for a while. Really like it. Super light, great feel, great size. I did a video setting that up initially. Maybe I should do another video talking about my thoughts on the M17 like a year later. Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so I think that is all of the electronics. So we got that out of the way. So now let's talk about the car itself. Probably the first thing that I want to mention, because it was amazing how big of a difference it made, and I didn't really hear too many people talking about it. So I'm a huge fan of running this car with the soft side rails. If my memory serves me correctly, TLR makes them in soft, standard, and the stiff as L. So it's kind of like from softest to hardest. The car just responds better and does things that I want, for a lack of a better explanation, with the soft side rails. It's kind of funny the way that I figured this out. I was running it on the high-bite indoor dirt track, and my car had the soft side rails on it. I didn't do it intentionally. I just had them on there because I was at an outdoor dirt track where it was loose and I was just trying to get as much flex as possible. So made sense there. Going to the indoor high bite track, I forgot they were on there. Just didn't even change it. I changed some other things, but I left those on there. Running with my buddy, Brad Nicosia, he had his TLR 5.0 Elite kit. Everything else was the same on his car. Shock package. We even swapped tires. We eliminated all possibilities as to why my car felt so much better, had more response, more steering. And then even in times when it started to get to the point where it looked like it was going to flip over, it just didn't. It just had a really nice response in the track with these soft side rails. We didn't know it at the time. So we kind of like left that track day and I was just scratching my head like, man, our shock package was the same. Everything was the same. What was going on? And so then I came home and I was looking at it and I was just kind of like cleaning it up. And then I realized, wait, did Brad have the soft side rails on his car? And I shot him a text real quick and he said, no, he didn't. And then I said, dude, I had the soft side rails. I think that was a big difference. And so then we both got the soft side rails. We went back and he had a much better feeling car at that high bite indoor dirt track at New Reds. So it may not be for everyone, but it was something that I haven't heard too many people talk about. And I think it makes a huge difference. They're not very expensive. So if you guys are looking to try them out and have kind of like an option test day, what I would do to kind of experience the maximum difference is have a set of the stiff as L's, because I believe that's what comes in the kit, the Elite kit, and then have a set of the soft side rails. Go out one run with those, one run with the other, and then see which ones you like. I really think you guys will feel a difference, and I wouldn't be surprised if you prefer the soft side rails. The TLR kits have a couple different options that you can put for shock packages on your car. This was kind of confusing for me at first because I didn't really know what parts I needed, which ones to try, and which ones were better. It was only by the process of me trying all the different shocks and shock combinations before I landed on something that I really liked and I feel comfortable with that suits my driving style. So again, I like a car that's a little bit more responsive in the track, lots of steering. I don't like to force the car to do things where you just shove it into a corner and then the back end just kind of floats and then it rotates through the corner and carries lots of speed. Some of the pro drivers out there, they're really good at doing that and it may technically be the faster way to go, but I've never liked that. I can't do that consistently, so instead I go the route of having the car do a lot of the work for me mechanically versus me giving it lots of input. I hope that makes sense. With that in mind, what do I have for my shock setup? This is referred to as the 4.0 shock setup, but I want to break it down so that you guys can kind of understand. And I think I'll go ahead and link all of the part numbers down below so you know, well, what the heck kind of shock package does Ryan have? I'll link it down below so that you guys will know. Okay, so the Elite kit, which is what this started out life as, comes with the 3.5 millimeter shock shaft setup. Pretty much none of that is on my car right now. If you like a car to be a little bit more mellow, not responding to what the track is doing as much, then the thicker shock shaft, the 3.5s, is going to be what I would suggest you try. Maybe if you're just getting started or you just have a tough time hanging on to a two-wheel drive car, maybe the 3.5 shock shaft setup would be right for you, known as the thicker shaft setup. What I have in my car is the 3.0 shock shaft setup, so literally 3 millimeter shock shaft. It's thinner, so it's going to be a little bit more responsive. The way that I feel it is it just gets more response from the track. I don't have to give it as much input to do things. The jumping and landing are a little bit more consistent, a little bit more direct. I like it for all of those reasons. The shock bodies that I have are the same diameter as the Elite shock bodies, nothing different there. What's different is I'm running the aluminum caps on my shocks. They basically have a plus 2 millimeter height difference versus the composite caps that come with the kit. Now, the aluminum versus composite, that's really not the difference that I'm caring about here. What I care about is the extra 2 millimeters of upstroke that I get when I run these caps. Basically, what it means is I can run more upstroke if I want to, or the shock shaft isn't bottoming out, topping out at the top of the body and doing anything weird when it gets to the top. For the most part, they're going to be pretty consistent even if you're running the shorter caps, but I just feel that the overall consistency and the response that I get from running this setup is higher, better, greater. So plus 2 millimeter caps up there. You have to run the older bodies that have a little bit more thread on the top so that this fits properly. If you try to put these caps on the bodies that come with the Elite kit, they really don't have enough thread at the top, and it's very hard to bleed them properly and have enough fluid in there because the cap is very tall. Trust me, I've tried it, and it's not a pretty sight. Big mess. So keep that in mind. When you're setting this up, you have a little bit more overall droop in the car when you run this cap, which for me gives the car a little bit more grip. It's a little bit more responsive. I get a little bit more body roll. Those are all things that I like. If you don't like those things, you like to be really aggressive, keep the car flat, let it spin, rotate through the corner, then just stick with the composite caps and save yourself the extra work. Shock package that I run, a little bit longer, thinner shaft, more responsive. As far as what's inside, I do run the thin pistons as well. This gives you a little bit more in terms of how do I explain the way that it feels. It would almost feel like if you went from 30 weight oil to 27.5 weight oil. It literally, the piston, it moves just a little bit faster and you feel it working a little bit more. So something to keep in mind, if you go from the standard piston to a thin piston, if you like the way that other piston feels, but you run this one instead, you might need to up your shock weight just a little bit when you make that change. Or don't, and just leave it, and you might like the extra shock movement. I personally kept my shock weights the same when I switched to these thin pistons because I just like the car that's a little bit more responsive and has a little bit faster movement on the shock shaft. Obviously, it's going to be very circumstantial to things like temperature, track surface, driver preference, and any particular given day. So those are all things that you might change in the future, but just so you know. As far as springs go for the shocks, I'm running the TLR whites in the rear and the AE V1 blues up front. That's something you'll see on a lot of Dakota Fence setups for the higher bite indoor dirt tracks, and it's got a really good balance. There's plenty of stability up front with the stiffer blue spring up there, and then the TLR whites are a really interesting spring. If I had to get super particular about it and describe the way they feel, if I'm at a super loose outdoor dirt track, like outdoor clay track, running pin style tires and that sort of thing, I would run the AE V1 green spring. That's pretty standard. Up from that would be kind of like a full jump, if you will, would be the AE V1 white is the standard spring that we would run in the rear. Somewhere in between, I would put this TLR white spring, and it feels slightly progressive. The V1 AE springs, they don't feel progressive because they're not, they're standard springs. But this one feels like it just is some sort of nice balance in between the two, and I really like it. So I experimented going from the green to the AE white and then put this one on there, and it's just got a nice balance between the two, and I really like the way it feels on most of the dirt tracks that I run. As far as aftermarket hop-ups that are on the car, probably the biggest one would be a shell bearing kit. I run the hybrid kit. It's got the ceramics in the gearbox, and then it's got the chrome treated bearings in all of the axles. Continuing the shell upgrades would be the shell titanium screws. You guys have known that I run those a lot. I really like the height of the heads. They last a long time, and it sheds quite a bit of weight from the factory screw kit. A nice upgrade that I got from RC Life, I got two of their upgrades in here right now, would be the 4mm riser for the rear wing, which it provides a nice clearance so that when I run a car that has a lot of lean angle and roll, it provides a little bit more clearance so that the tire doesn't rub under full compression against the wing. And then another new one is going to be this guy here, is the carbon motor plate. Something that I've only run one track day with, and it seemed to work just fine. Nice little upgrade there, got a nice cool ventilation and some nice finishing touches to it. If you guys are looking for any carbon goodies and upgrades, I've linked those down below as well. Let's see, what else? Went over the electronics, got that. Upgrade parts, shocks. Probably we could talk a little bit about the tires. Currently the tires that I have on there are going to be the Proline Electrons and Positrons, but they're slicked out in the S3 compound. Running down here in Florida, especially during the summertime or approaching the summer months, it's starting to get pretty hot. And so you kind of find yourself between two potential tire compounds when you're running on those super smooth high bite surfaces. Clay, the MC compound, is going to be pretty standard for most indoor tracks. It's always going to be a safe bet, nice grip right out of the package. These tires, when the track starts to get a little bit too aggressive for the MCs and I need to free the car up a little bit, I tend to go to the S3 compound. It performs really well when they come up to heat, where the car has a nice level of grip, but it's still drivable. It's not gonna bite me, especially since I like to run my car very responsive and have a lot of kind of mechanical grip in the car. Switching to the S3 tire, it gives me a nice balance of freeness in the car where I can push it still pretty hard without it biting me if I'm not super on the wheel. Don't do anything special to the inserts. I leave those the way that they are. And then as far as the wheels, I'm just using the TLR wheels. I really like the normal plastic wheel up front. Played around with the stiff as L front, and it just made the car feel too different front to rear. I just didn't really like it. Like I've been mentioning, I like a car to have a little bit more immediate direct response up front, and it just kind of provides a nice balance front to rear, so I just stick with the normal plastic wheels. Let's see, last thing I'll talk about is this wing on the front tower. It's the high narrow wing is technically what it is. And I legitimately feel a difference when I run that wing on the car. I run it everywhere. I've run the wing up front, down low, and then I've switched it up top to feel the difference. And the best way that I can describe the difference between those two wings is that when you run the top wing, the car feels more connected front to rear. When I run the front wing, it's got some, a little bit more input on the nose of the car, but then the rear end just doesn't feel like it's really there. It takes like a second for these things to communicate between each other. So I run it with this wing intentionally, and that's my reason, is that it kind of makes the car feel more planted and just connected all together. I'd be really curious if any of you guys have experienced that as well, or if you've tried the difference between this wing, the front wing, or no wing at all, and see what you guys like. But just so you know, that is on there for a reason, and that's why. Well, I think that is everything. Wouldn't be a complete video without a little quick suspension check, right? Oh yeah. Feels good. Well, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Staying tuned. Hope you guys have been enjoying those live streams I've been doing. I know that everybody's doing them out there right now at the time of this video, so I'm trying not to oversaturate your news feed there, but hopefully they're a lot of fun. If you guys have any questions about the stuff that I went over today with this car or anything in general, feel free to drop a comment down below. Do my best to jump in there and help you out. Like I mentioned, I've linked all this stuff in the description down below, so if you're looking to grab any of that stuff for yourself, go head on down there and find it for yourself. If you guys like the channel and video and any of the stuff we're doing here, please like the channel. And I guess it wouldn't be a YouTube video if I didn't ask you guys to like and subscribe and all that stuff, but it seriously does help me out. Lets YouTube know that, hey, RC is real, it exists, and more people should be a part of it. So please like the video and subscribe for future content, tips, tricks, videos, tutorials, hopefully soon race day adventures. And that's going to be it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
If I got $1 for every time you slam the door, I would be the richest girl alive, live. If you hadn't run away every time I asked you stay, you would sleep right next to me tonight. No, you didn't want me, all you wanted was a game to play.